Hello friends, welcome to Daily Editorial Enrichment Program brought by La Excellence R&D team. Today we will discuss important topics that has appeared in the newspaper The Hindu dated 21st November 2019. Let us move to the first article. In the page number 10 we have the myth around free trade agreements. FTS can ensure market access to only the right quality products at a competitive price. That's the subheading. And this topic can be related to the syllabus in the paper GS3, that is under India and its neighborhood relations, and also bilateral, regional, and global groupings agreements involving India or affecting India's interests. And from the plain perspective, we have to learn about free trade agreements and also on RCEP, what are its key facts and geographical location of its member countries. And for mains, we have to learn on impact of free trade agreements on India's economy with respect to exports and also on investment flows. And the next one is free trade agreements and what are its gains and losses. And first we'll learn on free trade agreement, what is its definition, and then we'll discuss on three important questions that has been raised by the author in the today's newspaper article. And the first question is, do free trade agreements lead to an increase in exports? And the second question is, does a lower import duty regime help in getting significant investments? And the third question is, what is the possible effect of free trade agreements on Indian economy? What is free trade agreement? Free trade agreements are nothing but the arrangements between two or more countries or trading blocs that are primarily agreed to reduce or eliminate customs tariff and non-tariff barriers on substantial trade between them. Free trade agreements normally cover trade in goods and they cover services also. Goods such as agriculture or industrial products or trading services, that is banking, construction, trading, etc. FTAs can also cover areas such as intellectual property rights, investment, government procurement. Also, they cover competition policies also. Recently, India took decision not to join RCEP, that is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. And we have seen a lot of editorials in the past few days also discussing this. And most of the articles were around exports, investments, integration into global value chain and domestic industry. And now let us see what is the effect on impact on exports. Here, the author asks the first question, that is, do free trade agreements lead to an increase in exports? And the author says the chances are very less. Because India has already signed its free trade agreement with ASEAN countries, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nation, and also we have got free trade agreements with Japan, South Korea, and also we have got special preferential trade agreement with China. And what is special preferential trade? It is nothing but a trading bloc that gives preferential access to certain products from the participating country. And this is done by reducing tariffs but not by abolishing them completely. And just signing the free trade agreement with other countries doesn't guarantee an increase in exports, because what if the import duty in the other countries is very high? So when there is a import duty becomes zero, there is a chance of or likelihood of an increase in exports by 10%, and the chance of exports will become very less if import duty of the other country is low at 1 to 3%. And here author also highlights that even reducing the import duty charges to 0% doesn't guarantee the exports. Actually, in 2011 we have entered free trade agreement with Japan with respect to apparels, and they reduced the import duty charges from 10% to 0. But India's apparel exports to Japan have decreased from 250 million in 2010 to 150 million in 2018. And from this it is very clear that even reducing high import duties charges from high value to even to 0 doesn't guarantee a increase in exports. And now the author asks the question on investment flow. Does a lower import duty regime help in getting significant investments? Author tried to explain this through using a case study of Australia's car manufacturing industry. In 1997, Australia used to produce 89% of its car. They could produce 89% because they protected the car industry through a high import duty charges, that is about 45%. But the share of locally produced vehicles came down as the duties were reduced. Today, Australia has got 5% of duty, import duty, and now most of the manufacturers such as Nissan, Ford, General Motors, they've all shut their shops in Australia. And now comparing to India, the author says India can attract significant investment in the car sector on account of even high import duties also. And also this resulted in indigenous car development and component industries in India. Now, with the car industry maturing, we have to think of lowering the import duty because we have to promote the competition. And for this to happen, we have to create a perfect atmosphere for that. That as packages such as tax cuts, cheap land, power should be provided. And also, there is another notion that usually free trade agreements gives free entry or ease of entry to the global value chain. Most commentators said that India will miss linking to the global value chain if it is not signing RCP. But here the author says the global value chain activities are time critical. That a country cannot become a significant part of such value chains unless and until it has got efficient ports, customs, shipping, roads, and a regulatory compliance infrastructure. If our ports are not in good order, what if a shipment is delayed, or what if you have a non-standard quality, and these things will disrupt our Indian industries to link into the global value chain. And finally, the author gives a suggestion to improve the firm level competitiveness, and this can be done by the government by helping or ensuring the lower duties on the raw materials. And also, the author says India is not turning inward actually. India ranks higher than the US, Japan, China in the trade openness ratio. And this ratio is calculated as nothing but the ratio of imports to exports as the percentage of GDP. And India is more open than United States, Japan, and China. Some of the suggestions or the way forward. The first one is review and assess. We have to review and assess the existing free trade agreements in terms of benefits to various stakeholders, and also we have to change the trade patterns before signing the new ones, and we have to consider all the stakeholders into account, that is of farmers, industries, and many other trading blocks. And the second one is we have to negotiate the bilateral free trade agreements with the countries where our trade complementaries and also margin of preference is high. Third one is reduce compliance cost, administrative delays, and by reducing the administrative delays we can also improve on our ease of doing business. And the fourth one is proper safety, and also we have to maintain the quality of standards. And the fifth one is we have to negotiate with China before entering into RCP. Moving to the next article that reads senseless. A nationwide extension of NRC is bizarre and repeat of it in Assam is illogical. That's the subheading. And this topic can be related to the syllabus in the paper GS2, that is related to government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of the design and implementation. And from the prelims perspective, we have to cover particulars of National Register of Citizens, and from the mains perspective, we have to cover on update of NRC and also issues associated including ethical concerns. And now let us see what is NRC, National Register of Citizens. NRC is nothing but a list of Indian citizens prepared in 1951 following the census of 1951. The process of NRC update was taken up in Assam as per the Supreme Court order in 2013. In order to wean out cases of illegal migration from Bangladesh and other adjoining areas, NRC updation was carried out, and it was under the Citizenship Act 1955 and according to rules framed in the Assam Accord. The Assam government released its final draft on NRC on July 30, 2018, and the list incorporated the names of 2.89 crore people, but the names of 40.07 lakh people have been left out. And why this was carried out? Why NRC was carried out in Assam? There was a crisis of identity at first place. That is, influx of immigrants has created a crisis of identity among the indigenous people. The locals fear that their culture survival will be affected, and their political control also weakened. Employment opportunities also underwent down. And the second point is increase of financial burden. Immigration has increased pressure on the part of state government, as the government has to increase the expenditure on education, health, and other facilities to the immigrants. So there will be increase of financial burden on the state government. And the third point is environmental degradation. Large areas of forest land were taken up by the immigrants for the settlements and cultivation, and the state experienced declining percent of land area under forest from 39% in 1951 to 52 to about 30% now. So there is a more pressure on environment now, forest area now. And the fourth one is illegal voters. As the more number of immigrants entered into Assam, there was a more number of illegal voters. And the fifth one is community tension. Locals fear that their cultural survival will be affected, and also they are losing their employment opportunities because of immigrants. So there is a high tension in this community. Now let us go back to the news article. In this news article, there is a discussion on nationwide National Register of Citizens, and also there is a discussion on reintroduction of Citizenship Amendment Bill. And this citizenship amendment bill is going to grant the Indian citizenship to refugees from minority communities. And these minority communities are from three nations, that is Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan. And if you see, in these three countries, Muslims are in the majority, and therefore this bill effectively denies benefit to Muslim minorities from neighboring countries, including Myanmar also, because in Myanmar there is the issue of Rohingya Muslims and they're facing persecution there. And now the center is also planning to combine both NRC and CAB, that is Citizenship Amendment Bill, and also they want to conduct this process, that is NRC process, naturally in Assam and over the country also. But here the question is, still we have no clarity on what are the end results mean for the 19 lakh plus people who are out of the NRC process now. And also we have not done any talks with Bangladesh about the deportation of these people. And here also author is saying that with all these issues in hand, extending to the whole country, that is extending NRC to the whole country, is illogical and also bizarre. Not only with NRC, but we also have issues with Citizenship Amendment Bill, which pointedly discriminates against Muslim, and this is against right to equality and equal protection before law, that is the article number 14 of the constitution. So, and there is also a genuine fear that it will target the Muslims. With all these constraints, bringing NRC and CAB combination is not good to the nation. Coming to the way forward now. The first one is ideology. In India, we have two very fundamental ideas. The first one is Akhanda Bharata. Second one is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And the NRC doesn't support this. The fear of being excluded from the NRC, being declared as foreigner, and finally being sent to the detention centers, this will go against the ideas of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and as well as Akhanda Bharata. Moving to the second point, that we have to chart the course of action regarding the NRC and CAB combination. That is, proper plan and action will bring into practicality. And the third one is, we have to provide the legal support to those people who fall out of the NRC. Now, moving to the next article that reads, in variance with the official growth story. This article can be linked to the syllabus GS3, that is Indian economy, and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development, and employment. And from the prelims perspective, we have to learn on what is GDP and its new method of calculations. And from the mains perspective, we have to study on structural and cyclical reasons which are leading to our current slowdown in the economy. And now let us look into what is GDP. GDP full form is Gross Domestic Product. Gross Domestic Product is the total money value of final goods and services produced in the economic territories of a country in a given year. GDP stands for total value of goods and services produced inside the territory of India, irrespective of whom produced it, whether it is by Indians or foreigners. And GDP is evaluated regularly to account for changing production structure, relative prices, and better recording of economic activities. And in January 2015, the government moved to a new base year, that is 2011-12, from the earlier base year 2004-5 for national accounts. The base year of national accounts had been revised earlier in January 2010. In the new series, the CSO, that is Central Statistics Office, did away with GDP at factor cost and adopted the international practice, that is valuing industry-wise estimates, that is using gross value added at basic prices. And now let us understand why they have changed the base year to calculate the GDP of India. This is done by the government often to ensure that GDP represents the true picture of the economy in terms of structural changes, the importance of the various sector contribution, right from agriculture sector or maybe it from a service sector. And the present rebasing has been done by CSO, taking the consideration of the recommendations from SNA, that is System of National Accounts, published by the UN, United Nations, in 2008. And now we should understand the difference between old and the new methods. In the older system, IAP was used to measure manufacturing and trading activity. And this accounted for the volume changes but not the value changes. In the newer methodology, we use the concept of GVA, that is gross value added, and which measures the value addition done to the economy. And the second one is, in the older system, GDP was first estimated by using the IAP data and then updated using ASI data, that is Annual Survey of Industries data. ASI accounted only for those firms which were registered under Factories Act. But in the newer system, in the new method of calculation, we use the data from MCA 21. And here MCA 21 is nothing but a e-governance initiative which is brought out by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which was launched in 2006. It allows the firms or the companies to electronically file their financial results. Under this data from more than 5 lakhs forms are collected. In the older system, farm produce was taken as a proxy for the calculation of agricultural income. But in the new methodology, it has widened the scope. Actually, we calculate the value addition in the agriculture sector, that is by using GVA, gross value added. And in the older system, very few mutual funds and NBFCs were included. But in the new methodology, the coverage has been expanded by including stockbrokers, asset management funds, pension funds, stock exchanges, etc. So it has widened the space. In the older system, the trading income data was used from the NSSO's 1999 establishment survey. Against this, new series uses 2011-12 survey. And now moving to next, that is issues, concerns with the new methodology. The revised data doesn't reflect the other macroeconomic parameters such as tax revenue, credit growth, trade performance, corporate sales, profits, and more importantly, the level of investment in the economy. So, this is the important concern with the new methodology. And now coming back to the news article. Here, the author talks about GDP growth rates. And annual GDP growth rates were distinctly higher in the new series compared to the old series. The growth rate for 2013-14 went up sharply from 4.8% to 6.2%. Similarly, the manufacturing sector growth rate for 2013-14 moved up from negative 0.7% to positive 5.3%. And the revised estimates drew a widespread criticism as they were out of line with the economic correlates such as bank credit growth, industrial capacity utilization, and growth in fixed investment, all of which showed a downward trend, but the GDP values were high. Here, the author raises two issues with respect to GDP calculation. First one, he says that GDP growth rates are overestimated in the revised GDP calculation method. And next, he says that lack of correlation between GDP growth rate and many other macro variables. And he supports this argument with the leaked consumption data. If the leaked consumption data are true, that is decline in monthly per capita expenditure in real terms between 2011-12 and 2017-18, then the GDP calculation in the revised method are false. Now moving on to the next article that reads, no other social media link plan. Government informs Lok Sabha that it has not received any proposal on the issue. This topic is related to the syllabus GS2, that is government policies and intervention for development in various sectors and issues arising out of the design and implementation. And the second, it can be related to important aspects of governance, transparency, accountability, e-governance, application, model, successes, limitation, and its potential. From the prelims perspective, we have to cover on Aadhaar and then right to privacy. And from the mains perspective, linking of Aadhaar and its issues, concerns, challenges, and other alternatives. And also we have to study right to privacy versus right to security. Now let us see what the Supreme Court said about privacy versus security. Recently, the Supreme Court stressed the need to find a balance between the right to online privacy and the right of the state to detect the people who use the web to spread panic and commit crimes. And these comments were in response to submission by Attorney General K.K. Venugopal appearing for the Tamil Nadu government about the need to link social media profiles with the 12 digits Aadhaar number. And now let us see what is Aadhaar. It is nothing but a 12-digit individual identification number. It issued by UIDAI, that is Unique Identification Authority of India, on behalf of Government of India. And it will serve as identity and address proof anywhere in India, and it is available in two forms, physical and electronic form. And this 12-digit Aadhaar number is compulsory and mandatory while filling income tax returns, and also it has made Aadhaar PAN card linking mandatory. Section 7, which states Aadhaar is mandatory for any government scheme that draws out from Consolidated Fund of India, and this means that if you want to avail the benefits such as ration, LPG subsidy, or MG Narega, you have to furnish your Aadhaar number or your Aadhaar enrollment ID. And now let us see why linking of Aadhaar may not be a right move. Cyberspace is like an ocean, endless and limitless, and we just cannot restrict it by or within any geography. There is no Indian internet as such. Since Aadhaar has almost all the information related to our bank accounts, it is better to avoid taking that path. Also, a social media account is a private account of a person, and it necessarily does not have to be linked to a government database just for the sake of privacy. Linking with other will be harming our independence and also democratic rights of the person, for one who never knows which data or what data may be misused by the companies or the government of the day. So let us see what can be done. The first one is phone verification can be done. Most of all the folks and younger generation use the social media from their phones. There are already norms that every phone number needs to be verified. The need of the hour is to get them implemented more strongly and stringently on the ground. And the second one can be KYC, option of linking social media accounts via the traditional physical verification option or through the reference option. And the third one is we need to create awareness among the users to stop propagating fake news and verify the news, because in the long run an educated consumer of news is the best antidote to fake news. Coming back to the newspaper article now. Government informs Lok Sabha that it has not received any proposal on the issue, and also the Minister of Electronics and Information Technology has said that government has no proposal to link Aadhaar with social media accounts of the individual. And also we have to note that Section 69A of the Information Technology Act 2000 empowers government to block any information generated, transmitted, received, stored or hosted in any computer resource. So, on a question about the government ordering removal of objectionable content posted on social media, the minister also has said that this has been risen in the recent years. The number of URLs that are blocked on social media in 2016 was just 633. In 2017, it is 1385. In 2018, it is 2799. And in 2019, till October 31, 3433 URLs are blocked on social media platform. Now, let us move to the way forward. We need to find a balance between the right to online privacy and the right of the state to trace the origin of fake news. To find this balance, we need to have data protection law in practice. And also, we have to focus on investing on R&D to bring the technology to save our virtual space and not open our data for any misuse. And also, the government needs to move away from relying on Aadhaar and linking as a one-stop solution for all the issues. For terrorism, we can link a SIM. For money laundering, we can link bank accounts. For electoral fraud, we can link voter ID. And for the cybercrime, we can link social media accounts. But for social media, linking Aadhaar is not a good idea. That is a harm to right to privacy. It is without question that a solution is required. But it is increasingly worrying as the solution move toward deprivation of fundamental rights and the first steps towards a possible surveillance state. So, from all these arguments, it is very much clear that, and also it is very much evident that linking Aadhaar to the social media is not a good idea. Thank you.